some desired outcome in the negotiations? Should we penalize them if they're being difficult in the negotiations and not emphasize a partnership with them or enter into a partnership with them because they've been so difficult? Or are we, that also tilts us towards, if we take either of those kinds of approaches, it tilts us towards a focus on the countries that are most crucial in those negotiations, which might mean we might miss out on partnerships that are beneficial from the global perspective of developing the best technologies fastest. So, for example, we might emphasize partnerships with India because they've got lots of scientists and engineers and a big carbon footprint, and de-emphasize partnerships with Israel, where they have lots of engineers and scientists, but a small carbon footprint, just because of relative size. So how do we manage the relationship best between technology partnerships and climate change negotiations?
Well, first of all, from my personal opinion, linking it to good behavior on the part of the country, I wouldn't necessarily endorse. I do think that this preoccupation with the BRICS has, and wanting them to do the right thing, has caused us to ignore some key countries in innovation. And a real obvious case is Korea, which, when you're in developing countries, the Koreans have been brilliant about introducing their products. They have to be a critical part of the innovation discussion. Another one which is a big favorite of mine is Chile, which very quietly is doing some very interesting things in trying to establish a base, a renewable platform base. So my general comment is I don't necessarily endorse, for obvious reasons, linking to good behavior, but I also endorse looking beyond the obvious big three, or if you want to put South Africa in that mix, that there are some very key pieces, certainly in the export element, but also in sort of developing interesting industrial policy that should be included in that mix as well.
Let me start by observing that if you would have held this panel a year ago, it would have been titled something like Comparative Innovation Technology Transfer Approaches to Copenhagen. Okay? And we wouldn't have gone an hour and 50 minutes without talking about the UNFCCC. So it's a different world, which is just an interesting thing in itself. A few basic things. Look, if you can get more progress by doing things in the context of the negotiations, great. And I think the Climate Innovation Centers are one example where we may have some progress there. That said, once you tie things into the negotiations, as soon as something starts to be, there's this perverse dynamic.